back in the back of the car. Yeah, I'm fine, yeah, I'm ready.
Call the meeting of May 6th to order. I'm going to have our fellow council member, Robbie Scattini, a veteran, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. He was a veteran in the U.S. Army.
That's it, yes.
Stationed in Fort Ord.
Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Gordon, Georgia, and Fort Ord.
Thank you. Will you lead us?
Okay. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Valdivia. Here. Member Friend.
Present.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Councilmember Scattini.
Here.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
City Manager Quilter. Here. City Attorney Atig. Here. And Interim Chief of Police Reynoso.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have verification of agenda posting?
The agenda for the City Council meeting of May 6, 2013 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on May 2, 2013 at 2:48 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. A proclamation for the Buddy Poppy Days in the City of Hollister. Is that representative here?
Dolly DeVassier is here.
Pleasure. Whereas the annual distribution of Buddy Poppies by the veterans of foreign wars of the United States has been officially recognized and endorsed by governmental leaders since 1922. I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, hereby proclaim May 17th and 18th, 2013 as Buddy Poppy Days in the City of Hollister, and urge the residents of this community to recognize the merits of the cause by contributing generously to its support through the purchase of Buddy Poppies on these days set aside for the distribution of these symbols of appreciation for the sacrifices of our honored dead. I urge all patriotic citizens to wear a Buddy Poppy as mute evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms which we continue to enjoy as American citizens. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council and all. Every year we come around with our poppies, and it all goes to the relief fund for the veterans. And my ranks are growing sort of low, and there's just a few of us, but we're going to be at the post office, Nob Hill, KNS, and possibly Rite Aid if we possibly can. We'll be there on the 17th and the 18th, and we hope that we collect enough money to send up, because we donate to the Yountville and Palo Alto and the National Home for Children and other organizations, and also locally we do that too. So whatever you can contribute to these, we thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
you for the conversation.
Okay, let's move on to item A, consent agenda or resolution.
I would like to pull A6.
Pull A6. Any other items that would like to pull?
Just 1 second.
Which one is that?
A6.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion for?
I'll
Move
make
to
a motion to approve A1 through 9 with the exception of A6.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, let's move forward with discussion on A6.
I just need a little clarity, really, is all I'm
Sure.
asking about. Is, these funds are out of the, are approved by the successor agency? And this is just
Okay, there's a few in here, and I apologize for it. We were trying to clean up a few messes here with one action. The home programs, which is a bulk of it, which is about $380,000 of it, is actually from home program funds, and what that is basically first-time home buyer loans. We've closed on 2 loans this year. We have about 6 or 7 of them that are kind of in the process. So what this money will do is it'll get us between now and June 30th. During the next budget cycle, we'll go ahead and we'll put that money in our actual operating budgets. Or if that's not what the council's desire is, then we can always come back and do supplemental appropriations again. It's generally how I do business, so that you folks have a clear understanding of where that money is and where it's coming from. So again, the bulk of that money is actually, obviously that money is not general fund money, it's actually state grant money that is part of that portion. The 101 funds that you'll see under 1125 is essentially, that is, if you'll recall, the City of Hollister Redevelopment Agency was contracting or paid the HDA some administrative money. When the state cut the redevelopment agencies off, right, the city ended up paying essentially 2 additional months for the HDA services to kind of get them into the understanding that we weren't going to be around anymore. So that $10,000 actually does come from general fund. That was basically for administration of the HDA for 2 months, right at the end of when the redevelopment agency existed. So that's a bulk of it. The other ones, we have, $2,100 in filing fees. Oddly enough, the City of Hollister pays some vector control for the city. We actually took the vector control or we pay it to the assessor's office. We took that money out of our account. When I say our account, I mean the development services account, to pay those bills. We had $1,000 in sort of minor repairs and maintenance, and that was really sort of just that first little move into the new building. There was a few things that we needed to clean up there. And then the housing fund, the professional services under 851, you'll see that there was $9,000. That's actually for some professional services that the city uses now. I'm trying to get used to the city and not the redevelopment agency, for services that's performed by the Adams Ashby Group. And what they do is a lot of the monitoring and administration of actually the home program and CDBG stuff. They help us prepare our reports and whatnot to the HCD so that we remain in compliance with them. And then the last one was, the other one was furniture and fixtures, which was about $2,000. And if you'll recall, the city went through and did a whole ergonomic, we bought a bunch of things, and that portion of that overall purchase got charged to this account, which we didn't have any money budgeted for. So again, we're coming back for that appropriation. So that's kind of the outline there.
Other than the furniture, shouldn't that have been in our what we told the state it was going to cost to run the successor agency? None
of these costs here really are associated with the successor agency. They're really associated with the city at this point. Yeah.
Okay. I got a question for you.
Sure.
How much is this fund goes towards administration?
The $9,000 that we pay for the last one I was discussing?
No, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what we have is we have 2 different grant programs that we have here in the city. One is home and one is CDBG. And we're required to not only do we do monitoring and reporting, but we do inspections and whatnot. So that's part of keeping us on track with those costs. Those costs used to be passed along to the redevelopment agency under actually the set-aside, which you can see that it still is. It's 851, but now it's part of that housing fund that we have in order to do that. What we intend on doing in the future is actually utilizing, we can't utilize all of it, but we're going to be utilizing some of the admin money that we actually get for those grant programs to help offset those costs in the future.
Okay, thank
So
you.
will your budget be changing then from the development?
Yeah, you'll see when we get to that point in the next month or so. I don't know if can I talk a little bit about how, what it is a successor agency is basically has a new fund number, but it's actually incorporated with the Development Services Department. Planning and building have now been combined into essentially one cost center, and then we have a housing fund. So we've been able to do some combining here. It should make it a little bit easier for me and for you folks to actually see where everything's at. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I'll move that we approve A6.
Second.
First and second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to item B. B1.
Move that we approve item 1,
Second.
B1, excuse me.
Was there a second? Believe you?
Second.
Yes. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now at item C, public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda.
Marty
Are there any
Richmond?
speakers?
Marty Richmond from Hollister. I had 2 subjects today. The first one is a correction to 2 meetings ago. We had some dispute about what a real Dodger uniform looks like. That was in the minutes, so I brought a real Dodger uniform. That is a B for Brooklyn,
You could just leave it right here when you're done.
If this was real, I would not have taken it out of the safe. It's a copy.
I have a broom for all the
Okay.
Dodgers.
I have a more serious issue. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the mayor and all the members of the city council and all the residents of Hollister for welcoming Sergeant Juergens and his family to Hollister. Sergeant Juergens, a severely injured Army sergeant was injured in Afghanistan a few years ago, and a nonprofit is building him a special home here in Hollister to service his needs. I know all of you couldn't make it, and a lot of people in town couldn't make it, but for those who did, and we've had a lot of good wishes from those who couldn't be there, I do not represent the nonprofit that is doing the work. I just would like to thank them and to thank Sergeant Juergens and his family for the service to his nation, and I know you'll make him welcome, and he'll be an honored member of the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. No other speakers? We'll move on to item D1, update on the Hollister Motorcycle Rally.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members. So I've been away at the Leesburg Bike Fest for about a week, came back, and we're making really good progress. On track now with the original proposal that looked for $50,000 from sponsors. We have reached that goal as of today, with contracts out on more. So we look to exceed our target there. New sponsors include the Ford corporate display. So this is Ford Detroit going to be coming in with a display going to be put on 6th Street. New Ford cars. They've got some interest for the future as well. They just, like any company, trying to see what this rally is going to be like for the first year back. And yeah, they have some interest, long-term interest in being the official car of the Hollister Motorcycle Rally. So that's good. So yeah, we've reached that target. Vendors have picked up. Laughlin Motorcycle Week was just this last week, and it seemed that they needed to get another event under their belt before they could send me some money, you know. So right now we're looking at about 32 vendors that have sent deposits or money in, which is good because most of those vendors are more than just 10 by 10s. We're looking at 20 by 20s, 20 by 40s, and obviously that's pretty good right now. So I've got my CFO, my financial person, coming into town this week, so we'll have more of an accurate count on the numbers, credit card swipes, that kind of stuff, and I'll be getting with city manager to divulge those kind of numbers. So that looks, again, on track. T-shirts, still have the deal in place, deposit, contract, all that's in place. Should have some shirts coming in maybe in a week or so. So that's all on track. That's good. Beer gardens, just started having some really good meetings with Elixir, who are going to be the distributor for the beer gardens. So the official beer of Hollister Bike Week is Coors Light. Okay. And then we've got Lagunitas and Blue Moon also. Twisted Tea. Twisted Tea came on, sorry, I missed those out. Twisted Tea came on board as a little sponsor as well. You know, iced tea with a little bit of alcohol, pour it over ice, very delicious, so they say, you know. That looks good. So the meetings are in place now. Rotary, obviously, and veterans having regular meetings with the distributor. Entertainment. We are going to, this weekend, start to pull the trigger, list our bands. We've got several of them, we've got all of them on hold. Just figuring out the routing and the backline requirements. And so most of them are local. Some of them are touring bands that play the South Bay area all the way down to LA, that kind of stuff. But that's what we're going to do. We've got all the bios being sent to us, so any of you that's been looking at the website, it says schedule coming soon, and coming soon, it's coming soon. So maybe this weekend we'll get all the pictures of all the bands that they're going to be playing, and that's not before time. I apologize for that being a little bit late. We've got options on the three stages. So we have contracted our sound and light engineer, so he's given us a great price on that. We have that. That's the entertainment. Bike show, of course, that happens on Saturday. That's a World Championship qualifying bike show. So there's some really, really good quality bikes that are already pre-registering. That's going through an online registration right now, so bikes are actually signing up to do that. That's good. Likewise, registration. Ladies are registering for the bikini contest, so that is good. Those are the main elements. I mean, the rest of it, the operations side, we continue to go in place, like trash. Just did talks with Recology, so they're going to be doing the zero waste. We're going to look at zero waste, which is similar to they do with the air show. And that's good. Today, a few weeks back, we did a deal with Humane Society, Central Coast Humane Society. They're going to supply us with 50 youth to pick up trash during the rally. And Scott, they all get credits, right? So these guys all get credits for community service. So 50 guys taking care of our streets during the rally. That's a good thing. Still have our volunteers in place for the road crew, the Christian Motorcycle Association. Still, they're up to 75 guys now. They thought that maybe they'd get 50. They got 75 on the list. We still only need about 50, but it's always good to have more. You know. So that's good. Looked into some temporary electricity. One of the local rental shops has got everything we need just in case we need extra electricity. They've got big 70 kilowatt Ingersoll Rand generators, and so we've got those on standby. And last thing, of course, we're going to be famous. National Geographic are coming to film the rally. They are, yeah. We're already famous, though, right? Yeah. So Zach Ness, who is the son of Corey Ness, who is the son of Arlen Ness, the granddaddy of the custom bike world, Zach Ness is hosting a new show. They're going to be unveiling some custom bikes here at the Hollister show. They want to film the whole rally, but they also, more importantly, want to film in front of the world famous Johnny's mural there, and do a little bit of filming at the bar, and interview a few booze fighters, and everything that makes this town special. So that is about it for notes.
Well, Mr. Cresswell, thank you for
Okay.
a more thorough update this time. I appreciate it. You've answered a lot of the questions we've been asking for, and I do appreciate that, so we know we're on track.
Yeah,
And
that's the key, we're on track.
It's looking much better, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Is there any other questions from council?
I just want to make a comment. I just want to thank Mr. Cresswell for the work that you've done in such a short time. And I really commend you for involving the community. It sounds to me like you're really involving the community as a whole, and
Oh, yeah.
especially the nonprofit
Yeah.
organizations.
There's a lot of nonprofits involved,
you.
yeah. Whenever possible, I use them for doing food or doing causes so that they can make their money for their own causes. So absolutely, that's what this is all about, the community stuff.
Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, and Mark, I hear from the people that live and work downtown, and they see you all the time, and they really enjoy the fact that you're getting involved with those people, getting to know everybody that runs businesses down there and everything.
Yeah.
My only question is, are the applications for the bikini contest going to be online too?
In case he wants to apply.
It's not open to all comers, actually. There's got to be some kind of initial scrutiny involved there.
Well, we just want to make sure that's right.
Okay, maybe we can draw something up there.
This is for another committee.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Continue the good work, Mark.
Okay.
Doing great, thank you.
Remember the first year I was a mayor and I
Any other questions, or-
in the bikini? I go, what am I doing here?
Yeah, Speaker card?
Their speakers' cards are out there on the table. Christy Howe? Elvira? No. Phil, go ahead to the podium and then give it to me afterwards, please. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council, and my dear friend Stephanie Attai. We went to law school together, believe it or not. Anyway, and our interim chief. It's great to be here. I love Hollister, and I've always loved the rally. My name's Elvira Robinson. I'm a local attorney. Been practicing for 37 years, even though I only look 38. But I just want to commend Mark. I've met him recently. I do work in the downtown, and I follow everything that's going on with our city council. I love Hollister, and I love the rally. And so I'm really in support of the fact that our city council is supporting it, and I want it to be successful. And I have seen Mark downtown. I've talked to him several times. And so I really want to commend him because it's a phenomenal job to put an event like this together, because I've worked on numerous festivals myself. So I think it just needs to be noted, all the work that he's done, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure there's others here that do also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move to item E1.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item that you have before you this evening is to consider the Planning Division and the Planning Division only new fee schedule. Staff prepared a brief study. This study was not as in-depth as the one that was recently done, actually in 2010. As a result of the new zoning code and whatnot, we had a lot of new fees that were established to our new zoning code. So these kind of still mimic those same fees we have, but what the attempt is to make sure that the city still recovers 100% of the costs associated with processing planning applications. With the exception of, I do want to point out there's two fees that we generally do not receive 100% cost recovery on, and that is for appeals, when there is an appeal of the Planning Commission to the City Council, and then large home care facilities. And those are really just based on economic factors. We don't want the applicant or the person who is wishing to appeal to pay an exorbitant amount of money to appeal the decision by the Planning Commission. We want to make sure that the process is as fair as possible, but we do still incur some cost when it comes to those types of things. The other noticeable fee for me on this particular round that I've wanted to change or am asking to change is as it relates to contract administration with environmental documents or CEQA documents. Currently, the city's fee schedule essentially says that the city receives 15% of the contract amount for the administration. I'm not sure how familiar the council is with the cost of sometimes those environmental documents, but they can be outrageous. So what I'm kind of proposing here is to try out for a while is a sliding scale. So it would still be 15% on the first $75,000 of a contract amount. That 15% would then be reduced to 10% over the next $25,000, and then 5% on those contracts that exceed $100,000. And the reason is that I certainly at this point I don't, and I really haven't done a lot of work on it to figure out where we are, but I believe that the amount of work that staff takes on, whether a contract is at $70,000 or $90,000, it's probably very, very similar, or even above that. We do have to do review. There's noticing. There is a lot of stuff that we actually need to do, but considering the amount of time that we spend on small contracts versus large contracts, I just think that there should be some economies to scale. It also provide developers in somewhat a little bit of a benefit not having to pay a huge amount of money on environmental work. If it turns out that we go down this path a few times and it doesn't work out, I will certainly be able to. I'll certainly come back to you and explain to you what the results were, what we've seen, and adjust accordingly if necessary. Like I said, with that, most of the fees, again, are all 100% cost recovery. Nothing has changed a whole lot, few dollars here and there on most applications. It shouldn't necessarily be a detriment, but it does ensure that the city does recover its costs when processing these things. So staff right now will answer any questions. If there are no questions, I recommend opening the public hearing, receiving all public and oral and written comment, and take action. These fees will not go into effect until 60 days after the adoption of this resolution, which is right around the beginning of July. So.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a
Councilmember
quick
Gomez?
question. So I didn't see in the staff report, Billy, that we had the past fees in there, the current fees, excuse me.
Yeah, on the fee schedule, if you'll notice, if you have the Excel spreadsheet, there should be an Excel spreadsheet. The third column from the right will have the current fee, and then it'll have the recommended fee, which is right next to it. So on the first one, for site and architectural, for, say, commercial, which is the second line down, the current fee is $1,324, and we're going to $1,366. Do you see that on there?
I don't see the Excel.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh,
The recommended fee?
oh, shoot. Shoot, that's going to be hard. I can show you mine.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a look at the differences, obviously, regarding the current and the proposed.
Okay. Let's see. I guess I can bring this back. Again, it was just something I was trying to take care of.
Is there kind of like a general, it's going up this
a percentage? It was
varies,
it was about 3%. I think it was. On most cases, it was right around 3%.
Okay. But it didn't incorporate a sliding scale?
No, the old fees, the only one that I'm doing that on is contract administration, and really that's for large projects or projects that require CEQA documentation or environmental work to be done. Like I said, our most prevalent applications like site and architecturals for commercial buildings and whatnot, they went up $30. And again, these fees were established in 2010. I usually don't do it every year because it's pretty nominal, the amount that it would actually go up based on our hourly rate and whatnot.
Yeah, so it's gone up about 3% in 3 years.
Probably.
And what attributed to that?
Actually, it's the city. Everything is. Yeah, it's really health insurance and retirement for us.
Okay.
Right, because everything is based on hours that each staff member spends on a particular project. So,
Yeah. Okay.
as the city's costs for us go up, they go up.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Bill.
Sure.
Has the city been losing money on this? Has the city been losing money on the old setup?
Well, again, if it's the desire of the city to always maintain cost recovery, I mean, you can maybe make the argument that at 2010 to 2011, there was no money lost. From 2011 to 2012, if the city saw a 1% increase in the cost associated with paying for our wages and salaries, then you would say, yeah, then essentially you're not getting cost recovery. But there's a lot of stuff that we don't that we do on a regular basis that there's no fee for.
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question.
Well-
Has the city been losing money? That is my question. I see your dialogue, I understand.
Okay.
There's really not a good way to tell, because the difference that we're seeing, those rates change, you're losing that accuracy in the estimating of the number of hours for an average application. Because what we're doing is we're taking and we're doing, a typical application takes this guy 5 hours, this guy 4 hours, this guy 3 hours. Well, if it takes 6 hours on one, 3 hours, and 2 hours, your difference is much more than this dollar amount we're talking about. So it's hard to say, are we losing or are we not losing? But I think by increasing them, this amount that we're seeing them go up on every year or two, it keeps you from getting to a place 10 years down the road where we find out, yeah, geez, we really are losing a bunch of money. We need to increase our fees by 35 or 40%. So it would be very difficult to say whether we're losing money or not, because the estimation of the hours for a typical fee project,
Right.
you lose the accuracy of the wage rates in making those time estimates.
So last time you raised the fees was 3 years ago, right? 2010?
April 2010, yes.
Okay, so it hasn't gotten, we haven't been any billing almost, been at a
Building-
standstill.
Well,
Right?
no, I mean, we've done our share of the application, and Clint is correct. There is as many difficult ones as there are easy ones, so sometimes you don't necessarily spend all the number of hours that we're associating here with each particular project. So it's a very true statement that there are some that we might, I don't want to say make money on, but certainly, you know.
Well, you don't want to lose money, but I understand.
No,
that.
no, okay. Yeah. Well, and like I said, I certainly can be more diligent about coming back every year and doing the increases, and, you know, if you want to see a 1% or 2% or a 0.5%, I can come back every year and do this.
When do we, how do we, I don't like that idea.
Okay.
So, yeah, sorry, I'll be the first one to say that. But I don't have a problem with having a term, you know, every 5 years, or set an evaluation scale of every 5 years, we're going to reevaluate, or, I know it's kind of difficult because it's dependent on,
A lot of,
you know, volatile,
Right.
you know, costs and stuff, but,
and one of the things we could do is just report back to you annually why we did or didn't.
That's a lot easier.
Recommend doing a rate. So if it's like it has been, and really all you're seeing is a % a year, come back and say, "Ooh, it was a % this year, we don't think it merits going through the whole process," you know, we'll eat up. But if we get into a situation where, you know, there's some sort of new employment contract, there's some sort of new thing with healthcare, that all of a sudden our costs go up 20%, we may do it 1 year after doing, you know what I'm saying? It may,
Yeah.
so maybe
And we
if
can
we
also-
just planned on every year in May coming
Yeah.
back to you and going, here's why we're recommending a rate, or why we're not recommending a rate.
or why you're recommending to lower the rate because costs went down.
Right.
I'm dreaming. but
That always
I
happens.
can.
Yeah.
All right, yeah,
Are
that
there
sounds good.
other questions from the council?
Yeah, I have a question. Billy, the hourly rate includes benefits also?
Yes.
Bennies?
Yes.
I put it in here.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with Victor. I don't want to see it happen every year, but I agree we should keep a handle on it, because if you say 5 years, we're going to review it, a lot can happen in 5 years, and we could be way in the hole by 5 years coming around, so.
Well, and just from my experience, the initial fee study that came out and was adopted by the city council that we're using right now was adopted in 2004. When I came and did it in 2010, I think there was some council members that weren't really happy with me for waiting 6 years. So I've just cut that time in half. So I'm never going to make everybody happy. I'm trying my best,
Good
though, I
idea.
promise.
I personally, is there any other comments, questions? Personally, I would like to see it every year, because I'd rather find out year by year what we're dealing with, rather than waiting for 3 years or 5 years. But I think Councilmember Gomez brought up something very important, and that is we are missing information. I think it might be a better idea for clarity and transparency to table this and bring this back to a future meeting if council.
Okay,
Well, what I would recommend is you go ahead, you've advertised for a public hearing, you open the public hearing, you take your comments, you can continue your public hearing till your next meeting, and really, it's adding one column a number, so we should be able
So
to
we-
easily do that on the 20th.
We won't close it.
Yeah, you'll open it and
Okay.
then continue it to a date certain. Is that correct?
Okay, so we'll now open it to, for public hearing.
Public comment?
Marty Richmond?
I heard that.
Marty Richmond from Hollister, thank you for your time. I think the idea of a sliding scale for the developmental portion is a very good idea, but I am concerned, without having any basis for myself, I am concerned about the size of the initial hit, the 15%. I mean, think about it. You do a $60,000 or $70,000 CEQA study. That's 10 grand, 15%. I would just hope that you would ask the staff to at least, even if you approve it, to spend a year collecting the data to see what it costs to run the basic part, the part that you have to run on every contract, whether every CEQA document, whether it's $60,000 or $50,000, because that we certainly could confirm that up and recover that. And I think the idea of then a reduction sliding scale, because you only make all the data entries once, is a good idea. And I think you need a year to do it. The reason is that some of these plans only get a few comments, and other ones get thousands. I fell out of my chair when the CEQA guy told me about general plan updates that get several thousand comments that have to be answered, and that all costs a lot of money. So sometimes people who do not like what's in your plan basically do what the people online do when they crash your system. They send in several thousand comments with the idea of just crashing the system. It's unfortunate, but that's what they do. So I think it would take a year of good work to just do the work and kind of keep track of what the cost, what the hours are, not the cost factor. You'll have that based on what you pay, but keep a track of how many hours and how much actual direct cost they have to put in it for reproduction or whatever it is, put it online. And I hope you get them to do that over a year's period so we could firm up that number. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
That comment.
I have no other speakers.
Okay. So we will keep this public hearing open,
Continue to the next meeting.
continue to the next meeting,
May 20th.
May 20th.
You don't need a motion for that?
20th
Yes.
holiday.
You need a motion for that?
A motion to continue public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Ah,
All in favor to continue the meeting till the 20th?
Aye.
The hearing? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Billy. Let's move on to F1. Fire protection.
Council, tonight, we're asking you to approve and to enter into a contract with the County of San Benito for fire protection countywide. This will be on Resolution 2013-54. Any questions?
Any questions about the contract, council members?
Yeah, well, first of
Councilmember
all,
Gomez?
First of all, Captain, congratulations on your new position.
Thank you, Council.
Chief. We appreciate all your hard work, so it's nice
Thank
to
you.
have you there. When this contract first came to us, before it went to the Board of Supervisors, I had a question on the reserves.
Correct.
I had some concerns about that, so I don't know if you could elaborate on on that at all. I don't know what the Board of Supervisors' thoughts were in regards to that. I know that I personally had a concern with the liability of having all those reserves on our books. So I don't know if we were able to talk at all regarding that issue, or if we're still at where we were.
My understanding is that we will, they'll be our responsibility. But one of the things, particularly early on in the first couple of years, there will not be that many shifts for reserves. So that reduces that to a certain extent. The second thing is they are not getting the 4850.
Right.
Which is where a big part of your cost is, where you're paying salary and they're getting paid full salary while they're out injured. Where the reserves, they don't have that because they don't have a regular salary that they're getting. So there's some medical risk, but it's much less than I think we thought it was and could be initially.
And there is costs in there planned for the cost of workers' comp and stuff of that nature. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And that's going to be one of the pieces that's going to be volatile, just like
Yeah.
workers' comp always
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Councilmember Scatini?
Yeah, if any other question, I'd like to make a motion that we...
Well, no, there's other questions. Do you
Okay.
have any comments?
No, just that, I just want to thank Mike for all the hard work he put in on it, and the hours and the time, and
Thank you.
so that's...
I
Councilmember Friend?
appreciate doing it for you.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Mike, I also want to thank you for stepping up during this little transition period here that's going to take a lot of your time, and I appreciate what you're doing.
This whole thing's taking a lot of time.
As an interim chief, you're going to take on the big bullet.
Yes.
My question is, in the physical impact, the expenditures up to $1.16 million for equipment and operational costs. Is that a drop-dead number? If we hit that in September, that means we don't have any fire protection in October and November?
No, there is, if there's some catastrophic disaster or something like that, we have a clause in there that we can come back and say, hey, do this call, or do this issue, earthquake, whatever. There's additional costs. A lot of that's going to be picked up by FEMA and other organizations that come in and declare a disaster and all that. So there are other costs. We also are looking at some additional costs just at the beginning to get it implemented. We're working right now with the CAO over in the county to come up with that cost ahead of time for equipment and stuff of that nature that's needed for the contract.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the write-up, but, and my concern is this year, we've already seen fire season's going to be really ugly.
Yes.
It's already started, and it's not going to stop
Started
until
early.
October. So my concern is that there's possible that we have, I know CDF is still going to be in the rangeland fires, but we still might have a lot of little grass fires and house fires related to grass fires.
Correct.
That we might not have looked at it when we looked at the level of service. And I'm just,
Right. The plan is for the average year and all that. It's always that perfect storm that you never planned for. But
Right.
the average plan, the plan is designed for the every year costs and stuff of that nature, some overruns, some contingencies, but, hopefully we don't have that bad year. For the people that may suffer, we hope we don't have a bad grass fire season. But if it happens, there is some overtime included in it. If, Clint, do you have anything to add?
Just in direct answer to Councilmember Friend's question is, unless there is something extremely extraordinary, that is a cap on the payment from the county.
It is a cap.
That is, that, there is no, we run out of whatever, there's not fire service, because the way this was all put together, which makes sense, is the county's not paying for 3 firefighters and 2 trucks, or whatever it is. They're paying for a certain level of service that will be provided throughout the county. And in order for us to make sure that we could do that, this was the number that we had to do that service. And this, along with the money that we normally budget for fire service, provides that level of service for both us and the county. But there is a cap. I mean, that was part of the deal with the county, was they needed some certainty on this is the amount they pay, and this is the amount they pay. That being said, there is nobody keeping track on I mean, there's not, on the other side of the deal, if it's a good year and you don't have to go out on a lot of calls, we're not only charging the county $600,000 either. I mean, we're getting the full boat. We have a contract to provide a specific level of service for a specific amount of money. They have protection on the top end. We don't necessarily. We have protection on the bottom end. They don't necessarily.
So this money amount is actually only for costs outside the city limits of Hollister and San Juan?
No, exactly what I said is, sorry, I maybe didn't explain well. This is exactly the opposite of that. This is the amount of money that we felt was needed in order to put together an integrated fire service that covered the areas that CAL FIRE had previously provided for the county, plus us, plus there's another 150 that San Juan puts in. But for those areas, for us to provide an integrated service, there is no county amount, there is no San Juan amount, there is no broken up, this is your fire calls, these are your fire calls, these are your amount. It's an overall integrated program. This was the amount of money that we needed to feel good that we could provide that service for the entire, that plus our money that we currently provide, that's what we could provide a decent, or that level of service that we committed to the county, that we can provide that as well as maintaining the level of service that we're providing for our community as well.
Right. Okay. All right.
Councilmember Valdivia?
No, fine.
Chief, I want to thank you personally. I know working with you on this, the chief has put an incredible amount of hours and thought going into this, in the negotiations here. The end result for the community is we are basically doubling the number of fire stations in our community, doubling the number of firefighters, cutting response time by 3 to 4 minutes in most areas, and we're doing it by saving money here. So this is something differently alone would cost an additional $2 to $3 million. So this is something great that happens when the city and county and communities, government can work together. And again, I really want to thank you for all the hard work you did on this. I'm looking forward to seeing the positive results from it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Need a motion to approve?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve
That's right.
Resolution 231355.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you, Mike.
Move on to F2.
Oh, good.
Mayor Velazquez and council. This is item F2, which is the resolution establishing the Oversight Committee for the expenditure of Measure E funds for the transaction, sales, and use funds. Just a brief history. The citizens adopted Measure E on November 6th, 2012, and extended the city's 1 cent transaction, sales, and use tax by 5 years. The transactions and use tax and the provisions therefore are found in section or chapter 3.30 of Title III of the city's municipal code. Measure E was ratified by the City Council as part of ordinance number 1085, and this requires the establishment of the Oversight Committee by council resolution. With that being said, the Oversight Committee, we are recommending to you and the council that the Oversight Committee include the following provisions: meeting annually to review and report on the expenditures of the city's Measure E sales tax revenue, that the composition consists of 7 members of the city who are registered voters, One member would be appointed by each council member and the mayor, and one individual, the sixth, if you will, would be appointed by the Hollister Downtown Association, or jointly by the Hollister Downtown Association and the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce. And then the seventh individual would be appointed by the San Benito County Business Council. The timelines, if you will, from the standpoint of the appointments, initially would be the board, if you will, the committee members will be appointed for a period of 2 years initially, and then based upon provisions that you would establish in terms of attendance and participation, obviously being active in the, as part of the committee, and also actively participating, or if you will, attending and also participating, that there would be the option for reappointment. And then from the standpoint of the reporting, there would be, again, our recommendation would be that there be one report that would be provided annually. The committee itself would meet quarterly to give you, or if you will, meeting with our staff, myself, Brett, and the other members in the finance for the actual information that would be the basis for the report that you would get annually, and then any other provisions that they feel would be appropriate during those timelines and those quarterly meetings, we would address internally. And then again, the report would come back annually, and then as part of that, we would also include, contingent upon the timelines, the city's audit that would reflect, if you will, the final audited numbers that would indicate the, once again, the usage for the transaction sales and use tax under Measure E. And then finally, any resources, materials, I want to say methodology or presentations that would be needed or that they feel is appropriate in order to provide that presentation to you, as well as part of the reports, we would provide within the city. And then the final, if you will, the final report would be provided to you in the same manner that we would have, and that we have been doing so under the Measure T sales tax. And then I think the final comment would be any other provisions that you feel is appropriate alongside of what we've given you as the initial set of recommendations that were pursuant to the information that was provided and given to you during the if you will, discussed during the recent workshop. We can once again solicit your comments and any other suggestions, and then if that is sufficient, then we can move forth. If you will, once again, we are introducing the ordinance tonight, correct?
No.
Or actually, okay.
No.
Or the resolution, there you go, and then that would be the basis to go ahead and move forward with the process. And then also, I've talked to each of you individually, and then the final comment would be made is that you amongst yourselves, and this would exclude the San Benito, if you will, the County Business Council, the Downtown Association, and the Chamber of Commerce process, but you yourselves, as council members, would go ahead and initiate the process for, once again, obtaining interested parties, and then make a selection, and then that would be the basis on who you select on your side, and then we would go ahead and then combine the other two members to make the 7-member panel, if that is the way you want to go.
I got a question. Robert.
Yes, sir.
What you said, I like what you said, but instead of once a year, I'd like to have it every 6 months, the report. I know they're going to come back every quarter.
Well, if I could real quickly, what the resolution says is it follows the guidelines that was in the ordinance, which was adopted by the voters, which said that the committee needed to issue an annual report. What this resolution says is it says they meet quarterly, they can make its annual report as it sees fit, and it says the committee shall issue no less than one report annually. So they do have the ability to issue more than one a year, and if you guys want to have them report twice a year, you could do that too. But there is flexibility if you get a group that wants to do that. Really, the reporting on you. So, I mean, whatever you want to.
Well, the reason I say that is I like to be on top of things, and if there is something after the first 6 months that's not going in the right direction, I think it behooves us to make those corrections, not wait the whole year. That's my attitude. And that's the way I would like to see it, if I had my choice. I don't know what my colleagues think, but that's the way I would like to see it done.
And maybe just to add a comment onto that, and I mentioned this earlier in the report, one of the key items that you're really looking at is the audit. The report, the actual timeline, or if you will, if I can be more specific, the actual presentation date for the report could be contingent upon, again, the audit. But just I want to say food for thought, if you will. If you do something, say for example, 6 months, then you run the possibility, if you will, although the numbers, obviously, whatever we would give to you in the financial reporting would be potentially, that's on audited numbers. And we have discussed that before, meaning that if you go ahead and you do a 6 month, it would be similar to a 6 month budget review where you have, that the final year end is the actual closing date with the year end closeout for the reports. Although the money, obviously, from the standpoint of how, or if you will, the measure, the Measure E funds would be similar to the Measure T funds in that same process, that we're depositing those into one fund, meaning Fund 105, initiating the operating transfer back from Fund 105 to 101. So again, although we have all that, we would have all that documentation there for you to see, the final closeout and the audited reports, the audited financials, the CAFR that you get, and then also again on top of that, if you will, the printed document, and then timing the report on top of that would actually close out that respective fiscal year versus doing a mid-year with, again, a report that would be, again, I say unaudited. Doesn't mean necessarily that the numbers are not correct or that they aren't exactly where they should be. But again, you have that audited, or the benefit of the audit to support what you would be getting in the annual report versus 2 times a year.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Other council members?
I'm not sure why the recommendation is to have a member from the San Benito County business group.
Because that's, well, I'll take this. That's what you guys told us to do at the retreat. This isn't, I mean, we're not recommending that. That's what we heard at the retreat.
I remember the Downtown Association.
And the Business Council.
Because my understanding, or my notes from the retreat are the Downtown Association, the Commerce would get together and select one person, and the Business Council would have one person.
Okay.
So that's, that, if that's not you guys' recollection, let us know. We thought that's exactly what you guys want.
Correct.
Maybe I can shed some light on that for you, Ray. The director from the Business Council made a big speech about getting this Measure I or T passed. And she said at that time that she wanted to be part of it, the Downtown Business Group wanted to be part of it. So that's the reason why I brought it up during the retreat.
I still fail to understand what, I thought the HDA and the Chamber were 2 separate organizations.
They are.
So why don't we just say choose one from all 3 of them? I just don't understand why we're combining the HDA and the Chamber when they have nothing to do with each other.
They, I believe, wanted to work together.
7 members.
And the Business Council was another group that was
So those
interested
2 groups came and said that they only wanted one representation from both boards?
No, we talked about this. Go ahead.
No, I don't believe so. I don't think there was any, I think there was getting to 7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, entirely up to you guys.
I can't support that. I can't support having one from 2 organizations. If one of the organizations doesn't want to be part of the group, then that's fine. But I think we should give them individually the option to choose.
Is there any other comments from the council?
Yes, Robert, when is the process going to start, or
Well, once,
have we already
again, with the...
received applications or anything?
No, at this time right now, we have not, but again, contingent upon you approving this this evening, we would then go ahead and give you the authority and would contact, again, the agencies that we just got finished referencing to initiate the, again, the process. And you would do that, I want to say, internally on your own, within your own, I want to say, process. And again, I refer back to Measure T and how that was done, because that's how we had the initial 5 members in the original committee.
No, it's not. It's not. But to answer your question, Pauline, what we had anticipated was the groups, whichever groups the council selects in whatever manner they select, we would notify them that or we would ask them, if they were interested and want to provide somebody to be on that. With regard to the council members, what we would recommend is that you go out, you find whoever you want to be your representative or for your appointee to the committee. But if you wanted, and you didn't have folks in mind, or you needed assistance, let us know, and we can do some advertising for that. But we hadn't planned on doing an overall, we're advertising for people. We were going to let you select people that you knew were interested, and we're going to make meetings and show up instead of just random people that didn't understand the commitment. So again, to answer your question, we would only advertise for folks if one of you asked us to advertise for folks. And then we would be happy to do that.
Okay. I think Councilmember Gomez's point is well taken. I think if the HDA wants to have someone in the chamber, business council, I think that's fine on my side. We could decide that as we come along here. Is there any other comments? So we can go to public comment. Are there any speakers?
I have no speaker's card. Oh, I'm sorry.
Something came up. I didn't expect.
Well, he's coming to the podium. You might want to consider if you want that odd number or even number.
We wanted it.
That's-
They said so.
But it's really not necessarily something that they're
It's not a
voting on.
voting.
True, that's
So an
right.
even number is probably okay. It's more
That's
like
right.
a
Discussion.
grand jury thing with 12 people, you know, it probably doesn't matter an odd number.
Right.
I'm Marty Richmond from Hollister. Please accept my apologies for not having a slip in, but something came up that I didn't expect. I agree with Councilman Scatini. I'd like to, first of all, as you know, because I've stated 100 times, I don't believe in the Oversight Committee, but since it was voted in by the voters, then we're going to do it, because you promised them and they voted and they're going to get what they voted for. I don't believe in it because I think you're the responsible parties, but we've had a lot of discussions on what they should be doing. And I don't believe what they should be doing is basically taking, with all due respect to Robert, I don't think they should be looking at audited numbers to see if the audited numbers work out. I don't think that's what we wanted them to do when we were talking about it at the retreat. What we thought we wanted them to do was to come up with some good ideas and to take a look and see if we're going down the right path. It isn't a question of whether we spend $1,000 here or $900. That was not the issue. The issue was whether they were going to come to you and say, you know, we think you're going down the right path, or we think you're not, or we think we have a good idea of what you could do with this money that's very useful. And to do that, I happen to agree with Councilman Scatini. I think a year is way too long. I believe that even if they come to you with no numbers at all, if they just come to you with ideas in 6 months and say, this is kind of generally where the money is going, we don't need an audited report for that, and this is where we think it should be going, or the committee thinks, the oversight committee thinks that it wants to put its stamp of approval on that and say we think that was well thought out, or if they think that the allocations are not right. I think that's more important than, oh, no, this was $10, this was $20. And because you have a very adequate and competent financial director, and he's gotten award after award on his financial audit reports. I think people trust his audits. Nobody thinks the money's being stolen or whatever. This is all about best use for the money. So I hope you can find a way to ask them to do a 6-month report, even if all they can do is come in and talk about generalities, and get them to get on the forward slope of the power curve by saying, here's what we think we ought to be doing with the money that's more effective. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have two things that I want to say. One is, I want to remind the council that what the, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought it was, I thought it was a member of the public. Sorry. I want to remind the council that what the ordinance says is the purpose of the Oversight Committee is to review the expenditures of the Measure E money. Right. And I think that's verbatim. Review the expenditures of the Revenue E money. Not make recommendations. It's to review how the money is spent. The second thing I want to note is in this resolution, as I'm reading it, under composition shall be on the first page of the resolution, it says that it'll consist of 7 members, and you may change that number, who are registered voters. We need to amend that to say registered voters in the city of Hollister, if that's your intent. I assume it is, because it's city money. So right now, it doesn't say that, and it needs to say that. So I wanted to make that known before you make any motions.
Okay, thank you. I think the point, obviously, is to review, but I think it's also important that we have input from the committee. They might have something we're not seeing that could help us lead us to the right path to make the savings we need to be making. I think that's a good idea, and I think the idea of the HDA and the Chamber and the Business Council being involved is also very important. So I think that all fits in my opinion.
And I think we should probably incorporate what Councilmember Scacchini said about the term or the time frame of
6 months.
of the reporting. Yeah, I agree with him.
Yeah.
I think a year is a little lengthy.
Any other comments?
No, I also agree. I think 6 months is good.
I just
So we
want
can keep on top of it.
clarification on, we've agreed to establish the committee, or I understand we're going to establish the committee of 8 members now?
No, 7.
No, it'd be 8 with the,
Eight
with the
members
Chamber.
now, and they will report every 6 months
Yes.
to the council.
Keep in mind, one of the things you do need to leave in there, whether you choose to have them report to you or do whatever else you need to do, it's important, and we have the language in here that I think allows it, that they provide a report to you that is required by the ordinance annually. Because whether you have them come and give you some report every 6 months or every quarter or twice a week for that matter, the ordinance that the voters adopted requires them to provide a specific annual report on the expenditures of the money every year. And so it's important that that be a specific piece of it. And then if you say additionally, we want you to report semi-annually as you see fit, then that would be fine. But we need to make sure that we
Mr.
keep
Mayor?
that other in.
Yes.
That's what I was going to, he took the words out of my mouth, but I think that it's important that we are in compliance with the ordinance
Yes.
as now as the voters.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Well, my intention
Keep
was
in
not
line
to
with that.
eliminate the year report.
I understand.
You know, we need that, but I think we should have it in 6 months.
And one of the things, I mean, we need to get it done, but I would really suggest with the number of changes that we made, that we draft something up and bring back for you guys to look at your next meeting. Is that okay with you guys? Instead of trying to get it all figured out and chase the mayor down to sign it this week and whatever else.
So we'll table this.
We'll continue it to the next meeting.
All right. All right.
And then just let me run through the changes real quickly to make sure we got them all. Okay, so we're going to go with 8 members. There's going to be 1 from the Downtown Association, 1 from the Chamber, 1 from the Business Council. They're going to do their annual report as required by the ordinance. You're also asking that they report twice a year, or every 6 months, as they see on issues related to Measure T monies as they see fit. And then we're going to change it to registered voters of the city of Hollister. And those are the changes that we want in there, correct?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, good, thank you.
Measure E.
Measure E, thank you. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Robert.
very much. Is there a motion to continue it?
So
to the next
move.
meeting?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to G1, reports from city council committees. Councilmember Gomez?
Sorry, it's been a while since our last meeting. I don't think
Cog me.
yeah, we had a COG in between, right? Okay, yeah, sorry. It's been a while since we had our last meeting, so 28, yeah. So, so one of the main issues that we talked about during the COG meeting was the rise in the charge for the bus service. So that's one of the items that we talked about. We opened it up to the public, and we took in public comment in regards to it, and the board decided to. Sorry, I'm trying to look for my notes. The board decided to table the issue until we could have further discussions with the Gavilan Board of Trustees in regards to them possibly contributing to, as you guys know, one of the most popular services that the local transportation authority provides is the trip to Gavilan College. And that bus is packed every morning and on the way back. So Gavilan contributes a whopping $0 to that service, which is pretty disappointing considering that we give them so much money by taking and busing all these, folks over there. So, so our desire was to approach the Gavilan Board of Trustees and see if they're willing to, instead of we were going to raise it to an annual amount of about $20,000 per year. For it to add up to that much per year. So I think it was going to be a sliding increase of up to about 25 cents per ride. So instead of doing that, we're going to approach the Gavilan board and ask them if they're willing to at least contribute that small, that very small amount that still only equals about 10% of the cost, or what we charge. It's actually only 1% of the cost, overall cost, and see if they're willing to work with us. So I'm excited to talk to them. I don't know how excited they're going to be to spend more money on bus services. I'm sure they'd rather just give their president another raise. But I think that we need to address that item because it's important to our constituents here that have to go to Gav over there. They can't take the classes here. So they have to go over there, and I think it would be important for them to have that cooperation from them. So that was the main issue, and then we did go over some other smaller issues. And maybe Councilmember Scattini wants to bring up.
I think you pretty much covered it, Victor. That was the main topic.
Yeah.
Any other?
Yeah, I said it on the FAR committee and the Intergovernments Committee. The FAR committee, we brought in 2 new members for the FAR committee, and that is the Pinnacles National Park Ranger, who's going to be attending the meetings, and also the Hollister Hills. He hasn't been there, but I mean, they're going to invite him to come, the ranger for Hollister Hills. Talked about that, and basically we just kind of went over what Mike just said earlier tonight about the committee talked about the countywide FAR service, and San Juan is in process of extending their 24/7 FAR station, which is going to be a great help. That was the big thing. It's going to be they're going to build on to the FAR station in San Juan, make it living quarters for their firefighters. And basically, that's what we talked about, FAR services. And then the Intergovernments Committee, which is right after the FAR service, we talked about quite a few things. One thing is the shopping carts in the county, in the city. And Mike Chambliss gives a report on the problems that and the laws that pertain to shopping carts, what we can do and what we can't do, and each agency, the city and the county, is going to go back to the respective supervisors and council members and talk about what we can do. It's really long and drawn out. It's not as easy as we think it is on the shopping carts. And let's see what else we talked about. Basically, that took quite a bit of the meeting that in itself. That's about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Friend?
Nope, no meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Valdivia?
Yeah, I just want to share a little bit. We had our the GAN Policy Committee, we had a retreat on the 20th of April at the San Isidro District. It was a very good retreat, and Robbie was there, and Clint. Just, if you want to correct me or interact wherever you want to interject. But anyway, we discussed, one of the things that I thought it was really effective, we discussed in terms of where we're at, what we have done, our accomplishments, and also where we want to go with the committee. The committee, Alder Voice, who is the coordinator, has done a tremendous job working with the entities with the police and, I guess, provision to acquire grants. The CalGrip grants can bring in so they can help with, again, prevention and intervention. But one of the things that I'm really excited about it, we talked about it, having a youth advisory committee, which we have talked for a long time, and that means that we would organize the youth committee from folks in the community that want to be part of that, to give the policy committee, just doing it. It's not a policy-making board, it's just to advise. So I'm excited about that because I think that it's good to get the younger generation involved in that. Another thing, too, that we're going to be working on is some of the members are going to be very involved in continuing to work with the high school to make sure that we bring them into the fold. They're still not in the fold for whatever reason. So that's going to be a big accomplishment once that gets done. Also, I just want to share with everybody, and I'm going to give Jerry a copy of this so she can make copies for you, but the mission statement, I just want to read it. We exist to create community free of violence, crime, gang activity by seeking policy practices in community-wide prevention, intervention, and suppression activities. And I think that is being done right now in the schools and all over the community, which is really good. I think there's still room to expand and improve. Our vision is youth are safe. The vision that we have, the youth are safe and connected to families, schools, community, and positive opportunities. And families, to me, is a big issue. It's not an issue. It's a big area that we need to really look at and work with because it starts in the homes with the families, and then, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to share that with you. We had a really good retreat. I don't know if Robbie wants to say anything else or, if I skipped anything.
Not really. You took some pretty good notes. It's one thing that Al DeVos is doing a tremendous job being the coordinator of the gang task force, and with the help of the sheriff's department and the police department, things are kind of falling in order.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
So there's been kind of less activity in the gangs, according to him.
It's good news.
Yeah, and before I forget, the one thing I said, the best thing that the city of Hollister and the county did was to come together to come up with making sure we had a position to provide the work that needs to be done. So I think that's really important.
It works good.
Great.
For myself, the only committee I attended was the rally committee. We had a presentation tonight by the manager of the rally, and it's what we've been doing at these committees is really making sure that we're getting specific information and we're moving forward. And I was pleased to hear tonight that he is succeeding and we're finally getting that information, and we seem to be moving along in a good way. So I was pleased with his report tonight. We are going to meet again on the 21st of May. It's open to the public. Usually we meet at the Vault at 6 o'clock on Tuesday night. That's all I have for my reports. Do you want to add something, Councilmember?
No, that, like I say, the public is welcome, and we have a pretty good turnout of people coming in off the streets, and prior people that worked on the motorcycle rally, so we've been pretty happy, and we even got the captain from the police department attends all our meetings and gives us all good information. Maybe he might want to make a comment a little later. But other than that, you covered pretty much.
Perfect. We'll move on to item G2, reports from council members, City Council. Mr. Gomez, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Mr. Scatini?
Nope.
Mr. Friend? Councilmember
I
Pauling?
do. I do, thank you. I just wanted to make an announcement. I got a call today from the Emergency Medical Services, and they're going to honor a hero in the community, and guess who that hero is going to be? If you recall, remember one of our meal drivers found that lady, one of our seniors in the home for 3 days who didn't have water and et cetera, and food, and thank goodness that he acted quickly to make sure that CHP was there, all the services were provided. So Mr. Elias Espinosa is going to be our hero.
Good.
So I just wanted to mention that. I don't know when this is going to be, but, you know, it's going to, I think it's great. I think it's awesome that they're going to honor him as a hero of the community for the year. So if it happens before the next meeting, I'll get you a date, so maybe some of you can participate.
Absolutely.
But also, Jóvenes de Antaño is having their Summer Nights fundraiser on June 30th, and it's going to be at the Legion, and we're doing this in conjunction with our veterans of this our VFW. They have so graciously agreed to co-sponsor it. Will make it better for us because we can work together and get this function on the way and make sure it's successful. And again, the funds that are raised by this function are strictly for the meals program, to provide more meals, et cetera. As you may know, we still have about 30 folks on a waiting list, but we also have to make an effort to maintain where we're at so we can continue to provide the service. So I would invite anybody in the community, anybody here. I have tickets at $35. It's going to be a nice roast beef dinner with creamy, so it's going to be nice. So let me know if you want a ticket, and I have them with me today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want a ticket.
Okay.
Councilmember Friend?
I do have something that I overlooked, and I attended along with the mayor and county supervisors the dedication to the home for Sergeant Juergens that's being built by Homes for Our Troops, as a nonprofit organization that Marty mentioned earlier. We probably had 125 people under the tent listening, and it was really something to see that many people showed up. I know it wasn't advertised that well, but it really showed the sergeant and his wife, who is just, she has been an angel to him. They were actually married after he got hurt, so it really was something. She has been a trooper through this whole thing. Thanks to the fire department for delivering them. A little difficult to get out of the truck, but we handled it. And I really think that he felt that he was, I don't know if he knew very much about Hollister before, but I think he really felt that he was coming home at that deal. And I think it's pretty commendable to the city, and everybody should be proud that these people picked our Hollister to build this home for him, and that he chose to live here.
Awesome.
And I think he's going to be an outstanding member of the community. In fact, one of his comments was he's probably going to take the mayor's position soon after he gets out of college. So I just wanted to thank everybody in the community, and I know that some of the local contractors are stepping up, and they're going to be offering their services for him. And I think it's just going to be great to establish that house out there. Beautiful neighborhood. It's going to be a great neighborhood once it's done. It's really laid out very well. So. And the house is, they had the plan to the house, and that it was very well designed specifically for his disabilities, for him to be able to feel like he can get around his house on his own power and be independent.
Oh, that's great.
And they made it very easy for him to get around it. He complained, or there was a speaker that had been through the same program, and he just, you know, the 2 years before he got his house were just very unfriendly for him and hard for him to get around. He couldn't get through normal doors. He couldn't get up the stairs. He couldn't. Carpet was a setback and everything. And this house is designed specifically for his disabilities, and it's going to be really
That's
something
awesome.
when
That's
it's done.
great. Wonderful.
And I think Hollister should be proud that this is happening here in Hollister. So
Absolutely. I want to echo what Councilmember Friend spoke about. It was good to see him there, and Supervisor De La Cruz. I know the information didn't get out to the public, so unfortunately a lot of people missed it because they didn't know it was happening. The program is, you can find it online. It's called homesforourtroops.org. You can make a donation. You can find a way to volunteer to help build this house or help for a future house for another veteran that's been injured. And that's what they do. They take the money that's been donated, they get the work done, and they keep helping the veterans. There's, I think they said over 1,000 veterans have been injured in the Iraq.
And they've built 150.
So they're always looking for funding. Personally, in my company, we're going to be working on doing the electrical for them. And I've spoken to another local company, Watt Electric, and he is going to help. And I'm looking for other electrical contractors to help us so we can provide a complete house for Mr. Juergens. And also, if there's other trade members out there that want to volunteer their time or materials, that's great, because now that money could be used for the next house. So the more we can save with this house, the sooner we get the next homes built. So it's really a great program, and I was pleased to see you there.
That's great.
And hopefully the public really understands, here's the time for all of us to work together. So it was really great.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, if I may make a comment, I think that's wonderful. It's great. And I'm really excited because this is what the folks in the community want to hear. This is what they want to know in terms of, and also another avenue for folks to get involved. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that they're doing this. And whether, Elias being the hero, now we're helping this gentleman with his family. That's great. I just want to make that comment.
We need to recognize our heroes, and this is
great.
Elias and everybody else that's been doing great in our community. So thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Some of them are related to earlier items that weren't completely germane but should be mentioned. First one is last Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors approved the fire contract, so that's already been approved by the board. That wasn't, I don't think we mentioned that. With regard to Raleigh, we received comments back from Caltrans on our encroachment permit. The comments were not significant. There are things that can be dealt with, so that was good news, because you never know with them, particularly if it's been a few years since they've done one for it. And then the last one is, over your next couple of meetings, on the 20th, the Hollister Urban Area Water Project, we'll be having the rate consultant come in. The initial meeting on the 20th will be really kind of a mass balance that talks about what the funding needs were, what the revenue requirements are to meet those funding needs, and recommendations for how to structure essentially the $5 million that the water district, San Benito County Water District's putting $10 million into the project, $5 million of it towards the city of Hollister's cost, $5 of it towards Sunny Slope County Water District's cost. But we'll talk about which structure we think is best for the city to utilize in doing that. So that'll be on the 20th. It'll talk about the level of rate adjustments that need to be put into place to meet the revenue needs. Then on your first meeting in June, I believe it's June 3rd, we'll be coming back with those numbers actually assigned to rates for you to review, and then be prepared to move forward with the Prop 218 process so that we can get the project moving forward. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that those things will be coming to you at your next two meetings.
Thank you. Can we also, we had discussions about refinancing some of the bonds for the sewer, if we can have an update on that.
Sure. Let me bring that to you, probably the first meeting in June. The 20th is going to be pretty...
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much. City Attorney Atik?
Council got an email from me this afternoon, but I wanted the public to hear that the California Supreme Court ruled today on medical marijuana dispensaries, basically upholding the right of local agencies to ban or regulate medical marijuana dispensaries in their communities. So that case upholds what you did in 2010 when you banned dispensaries in the city of Hollister. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week, I will be in Napa attending the League of California Cities City Attorney Conference. So that's all.
Thank you. Can we send a letter off to that to that business that just says, "We win."
Chief Reynoso.
Yes, all I have today is a few tips. So we've had a couple of weeks of some really nice weather. It's getting a little warm here in Hollister, and we had an increase of burglaries. Well, not an increase, but several burglaries of people leaving their windows open. Just a reminder that although it gets a little warm during the day, at night you leave our windows open. Make sure that they're closed when you leave in the morning. And as always, our daytime burglars, it's really consistent that you have some juveniles involved, and they'll go up to the door and knock on the door, and they're just trying to see if somebody's home. And people don't open the door, and they might ask for somebody who doesn't live there, or they might ask if they can mow your lawn. If it's suspicious, please give us a call. If people feel a little apprehensive, calling 911. Our non-business number is 636-4331. And a description and license plate of a vehicle would be great. You know, if the person is really lost, the officer can send them on their way, but if it's the same people, it's a clue for us. It's a tip we can follow, and maybe we can arrest some more people for these burglaries that we've been having. We just had one this weekend where a 15-year-old juvenile was arrested with the stolen property that was stolen thankfully just a couple of hours before he was found. But it's consistent. There are juveniles involved in this as well as adults. So if somebody comes to your door and knocks on the door and you answer, and they ask for somebody who doesn't live there, or it just seems suspicious, just please give us a call. That's all.
I think Officer,
Can you repeat
I
that?
don't know if you want to say their names, but who handled that and put that together that quickly to make that arrest. So.
He did a great job, and he used his technical knowledge and took every step he could to follow through with that, and within less than 2 hours afterwards, recovered property and made an arrest.
Good work. Good work.
Can you repeat that number again, your phone number, the phone number?
It's 636-4331.
Thank you.
Okay, City Clerk.
I have nothing tonight.
Mr. Mayor, really quick, I mean, I got used to going the other way around. I was usually the last one, so I apologize for not mentioning this. But tomorrow, the Board of Supervisors is going to be looking at a resolution in support of immigration reform. And I think the council should probably consider looking at what they're looking at. I think we all understand the impacts of it to our community. So I don't see how it would hurt if we could at least take a look at what the county is proposing and maybe bring it back for, or at least consideration. You know, I don't know how the council feels about it, but at least being able to form an opinion on it, I think it might be good because things are kind of moving along pretty quickly. So that's just my, those are just my thoughts. Obviously, if that's not the consensus of the council, then so be it, but those are my thoughts.
Is that tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow.
We could probably look at that on a future agenda item.
Yeah.
Okay, any other staff that would like to make any comments? That's none. Let's move to G3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Valdivia asked that we put this on, and I will let her, she probably knows a lot more about it than I do, so if she wanted to maybe talk to you, it's a letter of support for AB 900, which has to do with halting the implementation of cuts to reimbursement for Medi-Cal. And so I'll turn that over to her. And
Okay, I asked them to put this on the agenda because I think it's really important that we look at supporting this AB 900, who is Alejo's, Assemblyman Alejo's bill. I don't know if any of you have really heard or seen on TV how devastating this is going to be if it passes. And I think we have somebody here from the hospital, which is great, and if you want to ask questions. But if this passes, it's going to really hurt a lot of the folks, especially the folks who are on SSI and your lower income, especially at one of the facilities. I think there's a big number of folks there. And if that facility closes because of this, I mean, a lot of folks there are going to be displaced. I don't know what's going to happen. And even in surrounding counties right now, there really isn't that many facilities available for folks to go to. And the folks that are there because they need a higher level of care. And I think it would behoove us to go ahead and authorize Clint to write a letter to Assemblyman Alejo that we are supporting this. Also, I would, Jerry, I don't know if, I think Dr. Chalmers in the Adams, and I had called the hospital at the last minute because I forgot Friday to call to see if they wanted to be here in case anybody else has any questions or she would like to make a comment.
Is there any other?
Ask her.
Any speakers?
Yeah, just send it. And you can fill out the card later. Yeah.
My name is Dr. Sharma. I'm on the board of directors of Hazel Hawkins Hospital. A couple of months back, the state had indicated that they are going to cut back on services for the citizens who are presently admitted in our 2 nursing homes. And the cutback was going to affect us by $2.5 million a year, which is retroactive from June of last year. So that would have indicated that we have to get to empty at least one of our nursing homes. Now, we have a 75-bed nursing home. The two of them combined, we have positions for about 120 residents to be admitted. Now, if 75 of them are displaced, there is no place, at least nearby, where they could be accommodated. And the state is running short of something like 9,000 beds for those who need to be rehabilitated and to be in these nursing homes. Mr. Alejo, you know, the champion that he is of the cause for the people who cannot speak for themselves, took it upon himself and presented this bill, AB 900, which was greatly supported not only by the Democrats, but also by 2 Republican senators. That was amazing. That has never happened in the Assembly before. And it passed the Assembly, but chances are that the governor might still veto it. And that would be a near disaster, because I don't think the hospital can keep it open with the cost of $2.5 million of negative balance in our balance sheet. So we're just hoping that this doesn't come across.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chairman. Also, you know, one of the things too that's going to affect the facility, I know folks are going to be losing their jobs. Folks, not only are people going to get misplaced, but there's quite a bit of number of folks working there. So the impact is going to be greater than what we would imagine.
Marty Richmond from Hollister. Just for the audience, speaking through the mayor, so everybody understands, this primarily effect would be to people in long-term care who are being funded by Medi-Cal. And the daily reimbursement rate, and as Dr. Sharma stated, it would also be retroactive, so they would take that money back. And then they have basically $2.5 million a year in a long-term rate. Well, in a perfect world, there'd be lots of beds available and lots of other levels of service. But, you know, in the rural counties, that's just not the way it is. There are not. So I just want you to picture this. Perhaps your elderly parent, my parents are gone, but perhaps somebody who has their parents still here, or an elderly relative or somebody who needs long-term care is here in the hospital, and you perhaps visit them 2 or 3 times a week to keep their spirits up and help them along with their recovery, or just help them cope with the fact they're in long-term care, which is always difficult. And all of a sudden, you're going to have to find them a bed somewhere. And that bed might be 100 miles from here. And I don't believe in just exaggerating, make a point. It's very easily could be 100 miles from here, because the amount of money they're willing to reimburse on this is so small that you're going to have to go somewhere where the prices are really low. So perhaps you take your relative to some place in the Central Valley, and they're doing the best they can. And just how often, if you're working to help pay the bills, or you have a family, just how often do you think you're going to get over there? And the truth is, the first couple of weeks you'll get over there very often. And pretty soon you'll say, I can't do this anymore because I can't spend a couple hours on the road each way 3 times a week and stay an hour or 2 to cheer up my
Thank you. Okay.
Can we make a motion?
Can we possibly add a paragraph on the bottom about how raising the minimum wage negatively impacts? I'm just kidding. We're not.
No, we can't.
We're not going to go there. I'll make a motion to. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item H, I, J, K, no business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.